Shalom. This is Mary Omni from the World Government House of King David. This is a Republic Notice. The title of this Republic Notice is called The 50th Anniversary of March on Washington Constitutional Reality Check. The 50th Anniversary March on Washington Constitutional Reality Check. This is the Jubilee year of the March on Washington. And it was a march that made history that will never be repeated again, because we were able to gather people from all walks of life, all nationalities and all races to stand up to a hijacked government that was not taking care of its constitutional citizens. Okay? People was marching for a lot of things, but we overlook what Dr. Martin Luther King said when he said he received a paycheck. But we overlook a lot when we don't understand that Dr. Martin Luther King, one of the main issues of this march is that he said that he received a check with insufficient funds. Insufficient funds. And see, this has been the history since blacks was constitutionalized. They had funds for everyone else, while they always told us that the check we received always had to be insufficient. So then they could all then have a mystery Babylon public consensus that blacks were naturally deprived and was naturally poor and was naturally downtrodden. Now they came to this consensus and they even call it a census. And when they call it a census, they take assessment of all those actually trampling the 14th Amendment birthrights for this consensus that they had a right to trample because it's an accepted American paradigm that black Americans who are the constitutional citizens will always receive insufficient funds of their wealth for everyone else to embezzle, to commit larceny, to lie in bed with the bankers, and then claim innocence in the 21st century. See, now a lot of them is claiming innocent, and they want to point a finger at the bankers. But when Dr. King said the insufficient funds in the 60s, he made it world known that blacks were being attrition. And a lot of people understood that. But they still went back and lied in the bed with bankers, and they bought all their beautiful homes, their cars, their campers, their second homes, and their log cabins. Because guess what? It was a consensus that blacks always had insufficient funds. Therefore, they could just blame the blacks for stealing from the blacks. They could just point the finger at the blacks while they stole and lied in bed with bankers. Now they try to act like it's all bankers' fault. But you got the whole public mystery Babylon, and that's those who contract with the U.S. corporation and act like they not part of the republic until they feel as though their rights is violated. Until then, they're perfectly happy to trample the republic just to make sure blacks have the insufficient funds. So, this 50th anniversary of the March on Washington has to be seen in the constitutional reality. You must not look at it in any other reality but the contract of America reality, the supreme contract of America reality, the constitutional contract. And according to the constitutional contract, there is no negotiation with dung, okay? And the mistake was we spent 50 years, and 50 years later, and they have caused the genocide of a whole generation and a half of constitutional citizens. By their public mystery Babylon consensus that insufficient funds for blacks was an accepted Americanism for their dreams and their trampling and their immigration and their stolen votes and their stolen lands and their stolen homes and their stolen cars. So then it becomes How much are we going to accept their dung? Is there any more negotiations left when you know you're just dealing with mountains and mountains of mountains of dung? These people have no constitutionality because they don't wage a hellish war against constitutional citizens, which is a proof beyond proof that they don't have no constitutionality. And the proof beyond proof that they done waged a hellish war is that there is no black governors in the states where blacks are, in truth, the only citizens of every state they reside, and the rest, including the governors, are residents or alien residents. So we got all these governors, alien residents, and residents, which is proof that they waged war against the Constitution in each state, because only blacks, according to the Constitution, are the actual citizens of the state while being national citizens too. Okay, so, but they accept alien because they accept the insufficient funds that's given to blacks, and then they point the fingers at the cities. They point the fingers at blacks to jail. They point the fingers at all the social problems that they created. They created from putting mountains of dung, being a force of mountain of dung contractors of abomination of desolation, trampling the holy covenant of a holy nation of Judean black Americans. And they know who we are. Make no mistake about it. They know the fact that we came from 400 years human capital captivity and in the supreme contract as the only national citizens. They know we can't be nothing but Judah. And they been knew we can't be nothing but Judah. But see, we have this public who likes strong delusion for all their trinkets of stolen and embezzlement. So my point is, at this 50th anniversary, the Constitution, no reality is, you have been negotiating with mountains and mountains of dung. Now, to get a good grip of how you negotiate with mountains of dung, take a laxative, and then when you have diarrhea, have that diarrhea sit in the toilet and negotiate with it. And that's what you're negotiating with. That's been what you negotiated with in these last 50 years, which means Dr. King gave them a warning. They put their middle finger up at Dr. King, and they chose to serve Satan. They chose to keep patricianing blacks. They chose to keep trampling the holy covenant, which is the blood of King Jesus. They chose the bankers. They chose to be whores of the bankers. They chose white privilege. They chose same-sex marriage. They chose to trample. They chose to trample God's sovereignty. Because why? The abomination of desolation, dung contractors who did not heed the warning of Dr. King. Dr. King was the mercy from God Almighty to save a people. They chose the hellish way. They chose to serve Satan. And now on this 50th anniversary, constitutionally, which is the Holy Covenant, they have now insufficient soul salvency for the next kingdom, and Satan's soul collection will now be underway. This is Mary Omni from the House of King David. Shalom.